We continue now at the top of Daf Yud and Meseches Megillah. This is Megillah Daf 12b. The Gemara finishes the sentence off, Bevotzini with zucchinis. Rashi over here says Botzini delu and katanos, means to say like small gourds. And this was a comparison here between Achashverosh and Vashti. The idea was that they all had the same intentions. Kolomar means to say as follows. Devo'oso min atzmo, in that same exact type of food, zenoe vezeno efes. This one was an adulterer, and this one was an adulteress. Hu omer laharos es yofia, he wanted to show off her beauty. V'hi lekach neskavna, she wanted to do the same thing. She yistaklu biyofia, that they should look at her beauty. So that's the expression that people say, that it's talking about the husband and wife. They have the same basic intentions. And the Gemara continues, by Yom HaShvi, on the seventh day, Ketov Lev HaMelech Bayoyin, when the king had drunk a lot of wine. Again, this is a pasuk in the Megillah that we're darshaning. So the Gemara says, Atu ad hashta lo tav libe bechamra. Until now, he hadn't drunk a lot of wine. Only on the seventh day, now he becomes drunk. So Amar Rava says, Yom HaShvi Shabbos hayeh. The seventh day, it was Shabbos. She Yisrael ochlin v'shosin maschilin b'divrei Torah v'divrei tishbachos. When the Jews, when they were eating and drinking, they begin to say divrei Torah and words of praises. Avalov de kochavim, but the idolaters, she'ochlin v'shosin, they eat and drink, ein maschilin ela b'divrei tiflos. They just start talking words of immorality. That's exactly what happened in the meal of this wicked individual, Achashverosh. These people were saying, Midios nos, the women from Media are the prettiest. Parsios nos, the other ones were saying the Persians are. Amar lohem Achashverosh. So Achashverosh said to them, the vessel that I use, meaning my wife, Eino lo modai velo Parsi. She's not from Media, she's not from Persia. Ela kaste, she's one of the kastim. Ritzonchem lirosa, do you want to see her? Amrulo, they said to him, we do want to see her, yes. Uvilvad shetei aruma, as long as she's naked, as long as she's not wearing any clothing. And the Gemara comments, shebemida she'adam moded ba modedin lo, because a person is paid back, mida keneged mida. Vashti did this to other people, so this is what happened to her. It comes to teach us that Vashti, the wicked Vashti, used to take the daughters of Israel, and she would make them take off their clothing. He'd make them do work on Shabbos. And Hainu Dechsiv, and that's what the pasuk means when it says, Achar hadvorim ha'ila kasho chamas hamelech Achashverosh, Zochar es Vashti ve'es asher asasa, ve'es asher nigzar oleh. It says that Achashverosh, when his intoxication passed, he remembered what Vashti did, and he remembered the decree upon her. And it means exactly this point. Keshem she'asta kach nigzar oleha. That which she did, that was decreed upon her. She was paid back, mida keneged mida. That's the meaning of these psukim. And the Gemara continues, Vatimoyin hamalka Vashti. The pasuk says that Vashti refused to come in front of Achashverosh. So the Gemara says, Michli, let us see, pritzasa havoy. Wasn't she somebody who wanted to do this? The master said, we just said above, Shnein ledvar aver niskavnu, they both had similar intentions for the same aver. So why didn't she want to come in front of the men? So my time, alo asoy, why didn't she come? So Amar Rav Yossi Bar Chanina says, Melamed sheparcha bot saras. This teaches us that she developed saras, she developed this leprosy, and that's why she didn't want to come in front of them. But Masnisa Tana in the Braisa was taught, Ba Gavriel va'asa lo zonav. Gavriel came and he made for her a tail, she grew a tail, and that's why she did not want to come in front of the men. And the Gemara continues, Vayiktsof hamelech ma'od. The Megillah says that the king Achashverosh became very angry when Vashti did not come in front of him. So the Gemara asks, why was his anger burning so much within him? Why did he get so angry over the fact that she did not appear before him? Amar Rava says, Shalchale, she sent him the following message. Bara harore da Abba, you're the son of the stableman of my father. Abba and my father, that refers to Belshazzar, Lokavel Alpha Chamra Shasi, he was able to drink against 1,000 men. Rashi says that comes from the psukim itself. Velo Ravi, he didn't get intoxicated. Vahu Gavra, but this guy, referring to Achashverosh, Ishtati B'chamri, he becomes completely senseless just having a little bit of wine. Miyad, immediately V'chamoso Boarabo, the pasuk tells us that he became very angry. And the Gemara continues, Vayomer HaMelech L'chachomim. So it says in the pasuk in the Megillah, the king said to the wise men, Man chachamim, who are these wise men? Rabbanan, it refers to the sages. Yodei ha'itim, what does it mean in the pasuk when it says they knew the times? Sheyodin la'aber shanim v'likvah chadashim, they know how to make the leap years, and they know how to establish the months of the Jewish calendar. So Amar Luhu, so he said to them, Dainuhali, judge her for me. What should we do with Vashti? Amru, they said to themselves, Hey Chinavid, what should we do over here? Neimale Katl, if we tell him to kill her, Lamachar Pasuk Lechamri, Uvoy Laminon, tomorrow he's going to be sober again and he's going to request her from us. Nemale Shavka. Now, if we tell him to leave her aside, to leave her alone, Kamizalzla Malchusa, but she already disgraced the kingdom, so she does deserve a punishment. So Amrulo, so they said to him as follows: Miyom Shechara Beis Hamikdash, from the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, V'Galinu Me'artzeinu, and we were exiled from our land, and Nitla Eitza Mimenu, counsel has been taken away from us. We don't know how to give good advice. Ve'einanu Yodin Lodun Dine Nefashos. We're not able to judge capital cases. We cannot give advice in this particular case. Zil Lagabe Ammon and Moab. Instead, go to Ammon and Moab. The Yasvi B'Duchtahu, they are settled in their place. They haven't been moved around in exiles like we have. Kechamra, just like wine. The Yosef al Durdaya, the wine that settles on top of its lees. The lees is like the sediment of the wine. This is actually a metaphor that's taken from the pasuk we're about to quote. V'taima amrule, they even gave him a reason. They provided a source. T'chsiv, like the pasuk says, Shanan Moav min urav v'shokedu el shemarav. It's giving the same kind of metaphor over here. Moav stays in its place, just like the wine is on top of its sediments. V'lo hurak mi kli el kli. It's not poured from one vessel to the other. Uvagola lo halach, and they haven't traveled in the exile. Al kain amad taimo bo v'recho lo namar. That's why their taste is able to stay like wine that hasn't been poured from vessel to vessel. Their taste and their smell is strong. It hasn't weakened. Miyad, so immediately the pasuk says, V'akarov Elov Karshana Shesar ad Mosa Sarshish. Now he turns to these other advisors, and the pasuk lists them, Karshana Shesar ad Mosa Sarshish. The Gemara now darshans these names as well. Reb Levi says, Kol pasuk zel shum karbonos nemar. This entire pasuk is an allusion to the various karbonos. It's trying to say that the Jewish people have a special merit that they bring karbonos. Karshana, what does it mean, Karshana? Amru malachi ashares lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the angels sent in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribona Shalola, master of the world, Klum hikrivu lefanecha korim b'nei shana. Did the other nations, did they bring before you lambs that were a year old? Kederech sheikrivu Yisrael lefanecha, in the same way the Jewish people have brought that before you. The Gemara continues, Shesar, what is that a reference to? Klum hikrivu lefanecha shtei sorin. Did the other nations bring before you 2 turtle doves? Admasa, what's Admasa a reference to? Klum banu lefanecha mizbach adama. Did they build before you a mizbeach that's made out of earth? Tarshish is a reference to the following. Klum shimshu lefanecha bevigdei kahuna. Did they serve in front of you in the kahuna garments? Techsibuhu, like it says by the bigdei kahuna. Tarshish v'shoam v'yashvei. That's a pasuk in reference to the bigdei kahuna. So that's a hint to the bigdei kahuna. And Meres, what is that a reference to? Klum mirsu bedam lefanecha. Did they stir the blood in front of you? And Marsana klum mirsu b'menachas lefanecha. Did they stir the karva mincha in front of you? And Memuchan klum hechinu shulchan lefanecha. Memuchan is a reference to the idea, did they put a shulchan, did they set up a shulchan in front of you? The Gemara continues, Vayomer Memuchan, then the pasuk says that Memuchan spoke up, Tana Memuchan zeh Haman. It was taught that Memuchan is Haman. V'lama nikra shemo Memuchan. Why is his name called Memuchan? Shemuchan leporanus, because he's prepared for punishment for bad things. Amar Rav Kahana says, Mikan sha'hedyot kofetz barosh. From here you see that this most simple person jumps up in the front. In other words, Memuchan was mentioned last, but he's the first one to speak. Rashi over here says, Muchan leporanos, prepared for punishment, omed lios taloi. In other words, he's going to be hung. We're going to see at the end of the Megillah that Haman is hung. Mikan shahedyer kofetz barosh, we see the simple person jumping into the front. Sharei mono so akasav levasof, he's the last one that's counted among the advisors. Alma garuhu mikul, and you see he's the least of all of them. Vu kafatz barosh, and he's the first one to offer his advice. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, Leos kalish sorer beveso. So Achashverosh sent out letters throughout his kingdom that every man should be the ruler of his own household. Amar Rava, so Rava says, Il mali igros harishonos, if not for these first letters that were sent out, that people took totally not seriously because they made no sense. So lo nishtayir misonein shel Yisrael sardu palat. There would not have been any remnant from the enemies of Israel. That's a euphemism. It's referring to the Jewish people. There would be no remnant, nothing left of the Jewish people, because they would have taken the second set of letters seriously, and they would have wiped out the Jewish people. But instead, they got this first instruction, which made no sense, so they ignored the second one. Why did it make no sense? Amri, they said, my hai d'shadalam. What kind of message is Achashverosh sending us? Leos kalish sorer beveso, that every man should be the head of his household? Pshita, that's obvious. You're telling us the obvious. Afilu karcha bevese pardach shalahave. Even a lowly weaver is considered the master of his house. The Gemara continues, V'yafged hamelech pekidim. Then the pasuk says that the king sent out messengers throughout the land in order to find a new wife. So Amar Rebbe says, what does the pasuk mean when it says in Mishlei, Kalorim yasabedas uchsil yifros iveles? It says that the people who are prudent, they do things with wisdom, but the people who are foolish, they're constantly showing their foolishness. It means as follows, Kalorim yasabedas zed David. When it says that the person who's prudent, who's wise, does things with intelligence, that refers to David HaMelech. Tichsiv, like the pasuk says, "Vayomer lo avodav yevakshu la'adoni HaMelech nara besula." His servant said that the master, the king, should go find a nara besula. He needed to find a young woman to act as a wife. The idea was that anyone who had a daughter, Aisinahile, would want to bring the daughter in front of David HaMelech. David HaMelech needed to marry a young girl, and everybody wants their daughter to be the wife of the king. However, the fool, that refers to Achashverosh. Because here, he's sending people out all over the place to gather girls from everywhere. Everybody who had a daughter was hiding from him. Nobody wanted their daughter to go because they all knew only one would be selected, but they all would have to come before Achashverosh. So you see the wise manner in which David HaMelech handled the situation, and you see the foolish manner in which Achashverosh handled the situation. As Rashi over here says, Nara, David lo bikesh ala nara achas. David just sought one Nara, one young girl. Kol adam hera l'shlucha vesbito. Everybody wanted to show his daughter to his messengers. Ulai titav beinav. Maybe this one would be good. V'achashverosh ksil, but Achashverosh was a fool. Tziva lakabitz is cool, and he wanted to gather all the girls, bring them all to him. Hakol yodin shelo yikach ala achas. Everybody knew he was only going to take one. V'yas kul and yival, and have relations with all of them. Man dehavale brat metamra. So anyone who had a daughter would hide. So that's the difference between David HaMelech and Achashverosh. And the Gemara continues, Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira V'Gomer Ish Yemini. This is the pasuk also the Megillah talks about, identifies Mordechai HaTzadik. It says he was an Ish Yehudi from Shushan Habira, and then it mentions his Yichus all the way back, and it says Ish Yemini. So the Gemara says, My Kamar, what exactly is this pasuk saying? Ili Yechusa Kasi, if we're trying to give his Yichus, we're trying to show where he comes from, so Liach Sev Yozil Ad Binyamin, you should do the Yichus all the way back to Binyamin. It says he was Mordechai ben Yoir ben Shemi ben Kish Ish Yemini. Go all the way back to Binyamin. Elamaishna Hani, so why is it that we're choosing these names only? And so the Gemara answers, Tana was taught, Kulon al Shemo Nikru. Really, all of these names are really names for him. They describe Mordechai. Ben Yoir, what does it mean, Ben Yoir? It means Ben Sheheir Einayim Shal Yisrael B'Tfilaso. It means he was a son who lit up the eyes of Israel through his prayers. And Ben Shimi, what does it mean, Ben Shimi? Ben Sheshama Kel Tfilaso. It means he was a son who God listened to his tfilos. And Ben Kish, what does it mean, Ben Kish? Shehikish al Sharei Rachamim. He knocked on the gates of mercy, V'niftechu lo, and they were opened for him. And so now the Gemara asks, Kari le Yehudi. On the one hand, the pasuk says he's Ish Yehudi. Alma mi Yehuda Kasi. You see that he comes from the tribe of Yehuda. The Kari le Yemini. Then the end of the pasuk says he's a Yemini. Alma mi Binyamin Kasi. You see that he comes from the tribe of Binyamin. So what's going on? So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman says, Mordechai Muchtar b'ni Muso Haya. Mordechai was crowned with various titles, with nice names. Simple explanation is he was from Binyamin, as we've been saying, but he was called Ish Yehudi. It was a title, it was like an honorary name. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Bar Barachana, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Bar Barachana says in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Aviv mi Binyamin. His father was from Binyamin. V'imo mi Yehuda, but his mother was from Yehuda. V'Rabbanan Amri, and the Rabbanan say, Mishpachos misgaro zu bazu. The various families, they fought with each other who really is responsible for him being born. Mishpachas Yehuda Omeres, the family of Yehuda said, Ano gorem de misyalid. It's because of me, the misyalid Mordechai. It's because of me that Mordechai was born. Why? Delokatle David l'Shimi ben Gera, because Mordechai's ancestor was Shimi ben Gera, and David HaMelech could have killed Shimi ben Gera, because Shimi ben Gera cursed David HaMelech, but David HaMelech didn't. So David is from Shevet Yehuda. So Shevet Yehuda caused that Shimi ben Gera would survive, and eventually Mordechai would come from there. Umeshbachas Binyamin Amar, but the family Binyamin said, Mi noi kasi, he descends from me, and therefore I'm responsible. Rava Amar, Rava says, Knesset Yisrael Amar L'idach Gisa. The congregation of Israel, the Jewish people, they actually argued from the other direction. They said, Ru'u ma'asa Yehudi. Look what the Yehudi did to me. U'mashilim liyamini. What the Yemini did to me. What does that mean? Ma'asa Yehudi, what the Yehudi did to me, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph.